fund or consider funding that station. It isn't the chief, and it isn't the county manager, and it isn't the deputy county manager. It is the county commission, similarly with the city council. At the end of the day, the city council is going to have to decide where dollars are spent. Staff can make recommendations. And I just want to make sure, since we're kind of tardy in this situation in terms of getting something to the commission, we can afford it because the citizens expect that from us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Bent.
I guess I'm just going to drop back and ask one more time with regard to, I think when the chair was talking about the city back east, where all these DC, where all these jurisdictions were coordinating their response, that I guess I would have to go out on a limb and say that Motorola and the other system are both probably involved there, and there's got to be a way to do it. So I think these best practices, what are people doing nationally on that? I think we really, both the county commission and the city council, need to get a sense of what we're going to be facing to upgrade both of those CAD systems, that even if we're not in the same room, that we are virtually in the same room with our CAD system. So I think, you probably don't have a sense of what this is going to cost off the top of your heads, obviously, right now, but it's something that I would like to ask that you bring back to this commission.
County Manager Zadanek. You mentioned to me and this is to answer your question, Councilor, there's a template that they use a communications template to actually build that integration in the DC area, correct?
Mr. Chair, there is. And I'm going to say with the limited knowledge, I can be a dangerous animal. But this template establishes a mutual aid, and the discovery I had was there's a lot of, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of jurisdictions involved. And so that mutual aid template, we don't need to reinvent. I'm a great plagiarist. I think we should look at that, and it's online, it's available, it's downloadable. We can look at that as a first step. Now, that's just what our chiefs have been talking about is an MOU mutual aid format. The next step is, when you're migrating in, is the interoperability software between the two CAD systems. And I listened to what the councilor said, and there are software developers developed out there that can make those things talk to each other. And so we have taken a note. We'll be looking at that.
Thank you, Mr. Zadanek. Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chiefs, I know, or Mr. Swistak, maybe you know the answer. I know throughout over the last 8 years, there have been Homeland Security dollars available for interoperability issues, for helping local governments solve those issues. Are those grants still available?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Stebbins, yes, they are available. And what we need to do as organizations is sit down together and apply for those grants as one organization. And so that would be one of the next steps that we take after putting this in place, is start looking for that grant money. We all know it exists out there, but we need to do it together. And I think that's the focus right now, is no longer are we going to come to any of these boards or commissions and say, I have a plan, you have a plan. No longer do we do that. We do things together as one organization. So, yes, there's money out there, and we will be looking for it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, councilors, commissioners. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize for coming late, and if this has been asked already, let me know. But my concern about the unified dispatch, which I thought would be the most obvious way of doing this, is that we have a situation where there are GPS devices on all vehicles, that the vehicles would be designated as in service or out of service, either at a call or for another reason. Maybe the firefighters are doing something else, they can't assist someone who's injured, and a call comes in and people know immediately what's the closest, what's the most logical unit to send to that emergency. Now, if we have people in different rooms and we have this interface software, how does that work? How would that work in other jurisdictions? And is that as good as a unified dispatch?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Harris, yes, it can be if it's done correctly. our goal would be, again, is to first find the solution, the IT solution to bring the two CAD systems together, the Tiburon CAD and the Motorola CAD. Along with the interfaces that we need to make that system work would be the AVL, the automatic vehicle location, and all the other components that come together. Once we can get the interface to the CAD systems, basically what you're going to have in front of you is the same console that you would have anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're sitting next to each other or if you're 10 miles apart, the CAD screen that you're looking at would be identical to the one that's across the city. So the whole goal in the future, when we have all these components and interfaces working, that it doesn't matter anymore where you're at. You see the unit, is it in service or not? Where is it at? Is it the appropriate unit for that response? And so that is something that we can do, and of course it would take some configuration along with the technology all being put together as one. So it can be done.
And how much are these? So one agency has a Motorola and one agency has what's the other one?
Tiburon.
So, and how much are these systems?
Can't remember probably.
Mr. Chair and Councilor Harris, I'm Karen Ziegler. I'm the Director of the Communications Department for the Bernalillo County. It's millions and millions of dollars to purchase new CADs.
So it would be, if we were to each purchase the same model, it would, somehow we'd have to come up with a lot of money.
Yes.
Okay. And we don't know if there's software right now that can make these two talk to each other?
Actually, I've talked to Motorola, and they have stated that they can build an interface. They just need to talk to Tiburon, and Tiburon and Motorola need to talk together to figure out how to build the interface.
And how much would the interface be?
They don't know that. Until they talk to each other, they wouldn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I can ask them to start working on that.
Yeah, please. Well, I would, I guess, make a motion that we ask them to start working on it, and then I guess we would probably somehow fund the thing together.
Have a motion?
Second.
May I ask a question?
Sure. Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you. What Councilor Harris is suggesting, how is that different from what Mr. Zdenek just described that he saw at the conference?
I was going to call you Madam Chair. The Commissioner, what's wrong with that? It's not fun. At any rate, I don't think there's a difference. I think we're talking the same type of language. What we have is Motorola has certain vendors I think they prefer to work with to interface into their CAD system. I don't know that we're talking different language necessarily. I do think we need to look for the grant money. There's multiple vendors out there, not just the one that Karen mentioned, that can make the both machines visual to each other. It's done. It's a common practice, and we just need to discover how much money that's going to cost, and get the best proposals out there.
So it's really not an issue of recreating the wheel where Motorola and Tiburon have to find some way to make their two systems communicate. There may be products already on the market.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of finding what's most cost-effective and most efficient in doing that. Thank you.
So let me amend the motion to ask that was Motorola was going to look into giving us a price?
Well, that's who my vendor is Motorola, so I will ask Motorola to also look into that.
Yeah, so ask Motorola as well as look into other providers and then come back with sort of a menu of possibilities?
Yes, sir.
So your motion, Counselor, is to basically do the beginning research on both sides and find out technologically what we can do and how much it would cost. Is
Exactly.
that, okay, what our next step is. So we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Any other discussion?